Welcome to the Breakup Recovery Podcasts by your host, Barbara Stevens. Discover the wisdom and remarkable insights of Barbara Stevens, breakup recovery mentor, author, and public speaker. Barbara offers programs and solutions for any breakup so you can turn your life around, create lasting changes for the better, and embrace life again.
Hello and welcome to Breakup Recovery Podcast. I'm Barbara Stevens and I'm a breakup recovery mentor. And this is episode number 109, How to Be Happy Again After a Breakup. There can be a number of things that are stopping you from moving on after your breakup. There can be a number of emotions that are holding you back from being happy again after your breakup, separation, or divorce. In this episode, I'm going to explore 2 reasons why you are not finding happiness in your life. I'm going to be talking about the impact that grief can have on your emotions and why grief or not dealing with the grief that the loss of your relationship has caused you can hold you back from moving forward and finding happiness again. I'm also going to be talking about self-sabotaging habits that could be also a reason why you are not happy. So let's start with grief. When we experience the loss of a relationship, we experience so many emotions: loss, sadness, sorrow, unhappiness, and grief. It is a necessary emotion we have to work through in order to find happiness again after a breakup. Grief is an emotion that is not only associated with a relationship breakup, but with any major loss that occurs in your life, someone or something that you care for, a death of a loved one, loss of a pet, the loss of a job, a loss of an important possession, and what I'm going to talk about in this episode, a loss of a relationship and a way of life. Grief is a normal response to any of the circumstances that I've mentioned, and it is an emotion that one must face at some point if they want to find happiness and joy again. When we lose someone, it can take some time to adjust and learn to live life without that person. There is no right way or wrong way to grieve, and each person will find a different way to deal with and work through his or her own grief. The time frame in which you will work through your grief will differ depending on so many situations. So what I'm trying to say here is that everybody is different, and what works for one person may not necessarily work for you. And the time it takes will vary, so don't compare yourself with someone else, as their circumstances and situation and so many other variables makes it very difficult to compare. It can take a lot of time and support to heal. So let people help and support you through this process. Unloading your story and the way you are feeling often helps to lighten your load. Friends and family are there to help you, so please use their kindness and generosity. It is important to express how you are feeling to a trusted friend or family member, or professional, rather than bottling them up inside. You never know when someone else's experience or perspective can give you information that you need, and it also allows you to ease your burden by letting someone else help carry it. It takes time to adjust to your new way of life. There is no right or wrong time frame in which you should be over your breakup. Take one step at a time, one day at a time, and know that you can get through this even though there are times that you think you can't. The second point I'm going to talk about in this episode is self-sabotage. It can be so easy to start and feel like you are finally moving forward in your life, and then all of a sudden and out of the blue you feel that you are taking 2 steps backwards, and the thought of moving forward is way beyond your grasp. How do you know that you are self-sabotaging your progress, your happiness? No one wants to think that they are actually self-sabotaging their own happiness. The process of facing your fear and working through your emotions and having that conversation with yourself about any self-sabotaging can be a difficult process, but it can be done. Some of the questions you could ask yourself in order to work out if you are in fact self-sabotaging your happiness would be, are you continuing to still do what is holding you back from finding inner peace and happiness? What is holding you back from achieving your goals? Are you content in living in fear and misery? Are you comfortable in your thoughts? Do you fear the unknown? That is why you are living in the past. Fear and dread and anxiety can paralyze you. It can stop you from moving forward, from looking to the future with hope and confidence. Do you have some counterproductive habits that are keeping you in doom and gloom after your breakup? Self-sabotage is not only exclusive to healing from breakups, but we do it in other areas of our lives. We can do it when we want to go on a diet. We tell ourselves one more day won't hurt. We'll start the diet on Monday. Or we will have some lunch that is high in fat and justify it to ourselves that we will burn it off and one meal won't make any difference anyway. Or you eat some sweets before you eat your main meal. Those are self-sabotaging acts. Another example would be when you want to start an exercise program because you feel that you are overweight and unhealthy. So a self-sabotaging act would be to stay up late the night before so you can't get up for that early morning walk or jog. Or you make all sorts of excuses as to why you will start the exercise program next Monday. These common acts will hinder and stop you from achieving your goals. So I want you to take a moment to listen to yourself talk. What are you saying to yourself? Let's just focus on your breakup for the moment. Are you telling yourself that you have the worst life, that your ex has done so much wrong to you? They have caused you all this hurt and anguish. Or are you being mean to yourself? Are you saying things that only a bully would say? Are you telling yourself that you are worthless, that you are stupid for being in a relationship with the person in the first place? Are you constantly berating yourself? Are you telling yourself that you will never find happiness again? I had a client that was doing all of these things. He had just come out of a long-term relationship that he thought was going to be forever. He was totally shocked when it ended. It came out of the blue, and it took him quite some time before he came to terms with the fact that it was over. Things were never going to be the same, and he now had to make plans that did not involve him and his partner. Once he did accept that the relationship could not be salvaged or fixed, he went into a downward spiral of negative self-talk. He was constantly saying to himself that he had no idea how he was going to survive, how he was going to get over this tragedy, where he was going to live, and how he was going to ever find another life partner. He started to take all the blame for the ending of the relationship. It was all his fault. He should have seen the signs that things were not good and his partner was so unhappy. He blamed himself for everything and the things that he could have done and would have done to save the relationship. When he started to work with me, he was totally convinced that he would be living a lonely life, that he did not deserve to be happy, and could see absolutely no future that was bright. He was bullying himself. He was telling himself that he was worthless, that no one would want to be in a relationship with him. If he couldn't see the signs that his partner was unhappy, what sort of a partner would he be to anyone else? He couldn't even see a time in the future that he would be happy, that he had moved on and things were going his way. He was totally self-sabotaging himself. He was telling himself that he was not worthy. No one would want to be with him. So why should he try? Why would he put himself out there? So he didn't. He stayed stuck in that negative cycle of self-pity, negative self-talk, not doing anything to move forward. He was protecting himself from further perceived failure by telling himself that he was worthless and no one would want to be in a relationship with him. He was standing in the way of his own happiness. He was protecting himself from disappointment. He had told himself a story that involved setback after setback. It almost is a form of protection, but it was still self-sabotaging. If he had have stayed in the mode of self-sabotaging, I believe he would have lived a life of regrets and doubts. So in order to rid yourself of this self-sabotage, I want you to be more aware of your negative sayings in your mind, all of the limiting beliefs, all the I can't do this or that, I'm too busy to, I'm just not ready, I'm not good enough. I want you to do what I did with my client, and that was to question the soundness of these beliefs you are having. So ask yourself these questions when you are finding yourself having these negative thoughts. What is it that I believe about myself and my own abilities? How is this belief ridiculous and impractical? What would others say about this belief? What is another more helpful perspective I could take of this situation? Now that you have questioned your beliefs, I would like you to put in place more positive and practical thoughts rather than keeping the negative ones. So when you have a negative thought, I would like you to ask yourself, how could I respond in a more appropriate and proactive way that would help me get what I want? Is there a better way to respond? What are some reasons for making this change? What are the long-term benefits of changing how I respond in this situation? What are the key advantages of this new behaviour? It is so important to be aware of your thoughts and your behaviours. One of the things I worked with my client I was talking about earlier, we looked at what lesson he was meant to be learning from this relationship breakup. And after working through this question, he worked out that his lesson was to discover things that made him happy. He had put so much time into his relationship and had found that he was constantly trying to please his partner. He had forgotten to do things that made him happy. The end of his relationship brought to the forefront that he was not doing anything that he enjoyed. He made a list of the activities that made him happy, the things he enjoyed doing, and then we put actions and steps in place for him to do these activities. After a bit of time, he found that happiness had crept back into his life. He was starting to enjoy the activities he was doing in his spare time. I would like you to focus on solutions and take some time of self-reflection. Take some time to work through what you want from life, what activities will make you happy, what steps you need to take in order for happiness to return. I would like you to make peace with your pain after your breakup, and I would like happiness to return again. I hope that you got something from this episode number 109, How to Be Happy Again After a Breakup. Whether it has sparked a question, a query, or a better understanding of your thought process and how you think and the sort of things you actually tell yourself. If you think somebody you know might benefit from Breakup Recovery Podcast, please tell them about it. I would like to give a shout out to those wonderful and kind people that have taken the time to leave a review about Breakup Recovery Podcast on iTunes. I love receiving these reviews, and I am humbled at the encouraging comments and grateful that you find this podcast helpful in some way. In previous podcasts, I have read a review, so I'm going to continue with this today. This is a review that has been left on the US site of iTunes. I have been listening to Barbara's podcast, and it has been quite helpful. I recommend giving this podcast a listen if you are going through any sort of breakup. I just finished a 30-minute session Skype with her, and it was great. I highly recommend talking to her if you are having a really hard time. She is straightforward in her advice and thoughts, which can be hard to hear, but it's stuff we need to hear. Thank you so much for your time and efforts, Barbara. Your services are needed. Thank you for that review by Stacey Creates. If you would like to leave a review, you can do this in Apple Podcast, and I'll share more reviews when I next do a solo episode of Breakup Recovery Podcast. On another note, we are fast approaching the end of 2017, and I'm going to be taking a hiatus for a few months. As you can guess by my accent that I live in Australia and our summer is just about to start. This is the time of year when Aussies go on vacation, spend time with our families, and that is what I want to do. I have a new granddaughter. Well, she isn't that new. She'll be 1 in December, and I'm totally in love with this little one. Being my first grandchild, I'm besotted. So I've decided to take a break, and I will resume the podcast in February of 2018. I have been doing Breakup Recovery podcasts for 2 years now without a break, and there are so many episodes for you to choose to listen to, which I hope you do. I have a few more episodes to complete before the middle of December, so please look out for those in the usual places you find my podcast. Thank you for listening. And the last thing I'd like to say is, be gentle on yourself. You deserve happiness.
If you would like to hear previous Breakup Recovery podcasts, visit barbarastevens.com.au. Connect with Barbara Stevens on social media with Barbara Stevens Breakup Recovery Mentor on Facebook and at You'll Be Okay on Twitter. Read further blogs, view webinar replays, and download your free ebook, 3 Easy Steps to Surviving Your Breakup, and much more at barbarastevens.com.au.